university, 20% of our state funds look like they're gone now, wiped out. And we're having to deal with that fact, and it's permeating at all levels. I saw one of the budget markups last week that suggested that the university's web team may actually be shut down completely and replaced with a skeleton crew, just because there's no money left to keep that team hired. So, real quickly, and I'm being really participatory, how many of you all are facing a budget cut? How many of you all are facing a budget cut of 10% or more? 20? 30? How high?
I got cut.
For completely?
Done. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How about you? Back
Right there?
40.
40.
What school are you?
I work at Atlanta Public Schools.
On the other side, you got the hierarchy, and this is the thing where I find that I work with a lot of professors, especially with the web. Professors are wonderful people. They're highly intelligent, they're highly specialized areas. Unfortunately, none of them have a degree in the web, and therefore you end up with people who have incredible minds about disparities in healthcare. And then they sit there and they go, I don't understand why the web's that color. It could be yellow. The second thing is the faculty-student age gap, and this was a really interesting one we discovered. The University of Washington in 2007, we surveyed all our students. We asked one question. We asked students and faculty. We asked one question. The question was, do you think the course materials, that is syllabi, assignments, readings, etc., the basic structure of a course, do you think that should be available online? 2 out of every 3 students said yes. 2 out of every 3 faculty members said no. And it kind of shocked us that we saw that much of a split between them. And we see that sort of split between the students who are very web focused, and then we have faculty who aren't. My old boss the other day was telling me he's just in full capitulation now. He's just like, I'm 61, I don't care anymore. And I find I've got a lot of faculty who have that same feeling. The third thing is that, you know, our little budgets, our little teams mean we do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of stuff with small teams and no money. And that usually means that we have a lot of generalists and not a lot of specialists. The people who tend to be able to hire the specialists do a lot better at this, but they're not able to necessarily keep those specialists. Also, at the same time, you have people who we want to find cheaper solutions. We tend to gravitate towards more open source. We tend to gravitate towards, on the other side, the Twitter, Ning sort of thing, where companies are providing stuff for us for free. Obviously, I'm not talking about courseware here necessarily, in a sense I am, but some of the idea that we try to do a lot of stuff for free here. One of the corollaries of this, by the way, was the list of parts survey that came out last year. I was just doing some number cuts, and one of the weird things I discovered was there are more women tend to be underrepresented in almost all of the web, except in higher ed. That it tends to be close. The closest it gets to anything like 50-50 is on the web, is in the higher ed web. And I've tried to figure out for years why that's so. I have some ideas, but I'm not going to talk about it. The other thing too is if you're able to innovate a little bit, you get a massive return on it. The first thing that came to mind to me was when Brown University redid their website, and if any of you have all seen that, it kind of blew everybody's socks off when it first came out. It's probably a bad example on a tech level, but we were talking about another one.
Case Western at Serve University. I was just reading the edustyle.net just put out a book about web redesign, and Case Western had was a 40% decrease in their bounce rate just by redesigning their homepage.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The last thing too is, I think customer service has been a really interesting thing when I've been dealing with higher ed, because Ivory Tower is not very customer friendly. It never really has been. The places where people have been able to be good, customer friendly, there's been a big benefit. But unfortunately, the low shoestring budgets, the low number of really qualified specialists you see around here, you create these weird situations. And I don't want to really bring my situation into it, but last year, I'm going to anyway. Last year, I surveyed our students and asked them just about the web, and really gave them an open box and said, what are the issues you've run into on it? And a along with that, surveyed them on student services. How was the admissions process for them? And I discovered something really odd about one of our departments. Everybody hated their website. Everybody loved their student services coordinator. And I mean, there was no bad complaint, and it was, I mean, just massive praise. The weirdest thing about it all, who was the person who created the department's website information for a prospective student? It was the person who had the greatest amount of praise for being able to handle students individually. She posted, and I'm not kidding, a 2,000-word treatise on how to apply to the program as a Word doc. Right? It was completely unmanageable and completely unreadable. We always had theories that maybe she did this because, you know, she's just trying to hang on to a job, but it was interesting seeing that sort of paradigm. Someone who's really good at being able to deal individually with people, but just cannot write for the web. So, real quickly, the takeaways, if you aren't from higher ed, the takeaways I'm trying to push from people are small teams can do great things. I see a lot of people hiring a lot of specialists and trying to get things to interact, but I find that if you get a lot of good generalists, you can do just as well. Don't be afraid to take risks, especially if they're cheap. You know, getting a Twitter account is nothing. Getting someone to just take a few minutes every day to just check the Facebook account, that's nothing. It's just a case of being willing to take those risks and see what the rewards you get out of them.
Say something real quick.
Go ahead.
I was talking to somebody about the hidden costs of social media, and you know, to that point, everything is free and it's easy to do. But I think a lot of universities don't think what happens when this gets really big. You know, we start a Facebook group. What happens when 2,000 kids are in here and asking questions every hour? How do we man that? And so, definitely be aware of the time involved if you do social media or web well. That it can definitely become something that almost you could devote a full person to.
Absolutely,
So.
in the long term. The last thing I would say, and then I'm going to shut up, always be present. And I learned this in the last 8 years of public health. If you're willing to put yourself out there, if you're willing to basically put yourself in the shoes of students, do whatever it takes to say, I'm willing to be there and be ready to help you. And I think that goes for any organization. So, that's our stuff. Let's throw it open to questions.